What is up, YouTube family? Welcome to part 2 of our new series, Non-Acceptance to Love. Woo-wee! It is a tender topic, as always, the non-acceptance thing, and a really unrelated side note. Have you ever used one of these things? I'm like tripping out. It's actually quite challenging, and I know that's the point, but it's kind of weird too. You know, I just imagine like our ancestors looking at contraptions like this and being like, what are you doing? You know? Anyway, I digress. Welcome to part 2, which is about acceptance is an invitation. Acceptance has been a big trip for me because I got it confused with a state of complacency or resignation. Like, oh, I just have to be okay with this thing, which is actually taking me from my heart, or I feel disrespected, or I'm the one who's being disrespectful, but it is what it is. And that's a lower octave expression of it is what it is. And, right? Acceptance for me feels less like a full stop and more like a comma. You're able to see reality as it is, which is in it of itself a state of like surrender, a state of trust, a state of wholeness. Because awareness and acceptance are the first stages before any change. We can't really move forward if we don't know what we're moving forward from. For myself, to give an example, I can't move forward from a feeling of being stagnant or fearful if I don't have first awareness of this state of fear which is keeping me small, or an acceptance that that has been a phenomena that has been keeping me small. And what does the acceptance do? Why is it an invitation? Because as you approach it, it's a door. And you can open the door to learn about yourself, to learn about the world, to learn about why are you the way that you are. Why am I in a fearful state? Okay, well, let me open that door. Because if I don't accept I'm in a fearful state, I'm like, all right, distract. All right, yeah, let's just do this, everyone. We're all good. We're all good here. And it's like going like this instead of this. I have to accept that I feel fearful before I can then ask why. Why do I feel fearful? Okay, well, I noticed that in my family of origin, there are a few key characters who are pretty fearful. And I kind of inherited that because what I resisted persisted. I judged that so much. I didn't understand it, I didn't like it, and I resisted it. And so why does it persist if we resist? Because we exile it. And what we exile, we become unconsciously loyal to. Oh my God, it's a huge thing. Thank you, Family Constellations. Before I go too much into story, I do need to set up the stage for what we are going to cover in this video today. We're going to be speaking a lot about how we block our life. We're going to be speaking about how we can welcome life. We're going to be speaking about the process of self-inquiry so that we can really get to the bottom of why we're not accepting. And this is a bottomless pit, so to speak, so it's layers of the onion, yeah. But I want to pose a question to you before we dive in, and that is this. What if everything that has happened to you up until now, including your deepest struggles or challenges, your greatest successes, has been exactly what you needed to become the person that you are, in essence, meant to be? What if it was all for a reason? And not as a like, oh, love and light, it's all for a reason, baby. But like, there's a point to that. And we as co-creators get to decide a lot of the time, what is that point? And that's where free will comes in. Hard deterministic is like, there's one path, you're supposed to walk it, that's who you're meant to be. And free will is like, okay, there's an essence of who I'm meant to be, and I get to decide what glasses I put on, how I see what is happening in my life. So that's a whole other philosophical debate, which is beyond the scope of this video. But necessary to weave in, right? To continue dismantling the sort of black and white thing. But what if your current circumstances, no matter how imperfect, no matter how difficult, are exactly what will allow you to evolve and grow in the most profound of ways? What if this is all setting up the stage for the you that is going to be resilient and steadfast, the you that can face challenge as it comes and doesn't shy away, the you that can have hard conversations because you've been through struggle before and you're not weak, you're not fragile. The version of you that is able to discipline themselves, the version of you that is able to allow themselves to relax, the version of you that has got some sort of vision for some kind of future, knowing that when you plan, that plan will change, but that's not a reason not to plan. Hi, I'm someone who hasn't planned a lot of the time, and I've realized that it literally doesn't work. I just end up feeling like I'm wasting time. So I've had to learn through the acceptance of this thing which I didn't like about myself, because of the hindsight bias of looking back and being like, oh, dang, I didn't harness time, and time is precious. And only by accepting that truly can I then take a different story, because otherwise I noticed for myself the non-acceptance of it meant that there was the story behind it was, or how to put it in a different way, the seed was still there. I might have like trimmed the leaves and whatnot, but I didn't pull out like the root, so to speak. And so the plant just kept growing. So when really was the last time you let life be as it is? And were you able to accept that? And from that acceptance, were you able to make a change if that was the next step that felt really alive? Or was you accepting reality as it is, actually just letting those deep feelings come through? That grief that you haven't felt, that overwhelm that you haven't felt, to allow it to discharge so you can get to the bottom of, why am I so overwhelmed? Or allowing yourself to feel really angry about something. Your boundaries just keep being violated and you feel so angry, but you push it aside because you don't accept it. There's other things to do, but that's not letting life be as it is, because there you go, feeling contracted because there's all this emotion inside. Or even letting life be as it is being okay in the stillness of a moment and not feeling like you need to fill it with something. As it is also, wow, I feel really tired today. Maybe that's my body telling me that I've been going a bit hard and I need to downregulate. I'm accepting reality as it is. Not thinking that I'm a machine and it's go, go, go every day. Things like that. So, the first section of this video, after this somewhat long introduction, is all about the so-called tyranny of no and how we block life's flow. So this is also all about the psychology of resistance, for sure, kind of like in the last video. But deepening that, our psyche is wired to reject discomfort. We seek comfort because in the comfort arises some sense of safety, and we all want to live, and we've associated living with safety, right? And the paradox is, a lot of the time we live a less animate life in the quest of safety. Again, not necessarily the direction I'm taking this video, but an important note. We're really conditioned to say no to anything that threatens our sense of control, safety, or identity. The rejection often arises when we are faced with situations that challenge our established beliefs, our emotional patterns, our desires, our preconditioned, pre-programmed sense of self. And then the no can become a defense mechanism against uncertainty. Like there's the vastness of the unknown right before us, which is in every single moment, really. But we say no. We choose the safe option. We choose not to be in discomfort. We choose not to be in vulnerability. We choose not to have a hard conversation. But rather than it actually protecting us, it leads us into cycles of stagnation and frustration because we're not in alignment with our authentic self. We've been withholding truth, or we're treating ourselves like a doormat, or we're people pleasing, or we so want the change, but we're not willing to take responsibility for it. We're not willing to take responsibility for what it actually will require of us to embody the change that we want in our lives. For a while, I really wanted to move to a different sort of area in Australia. And then I'm like, okay, constantly fantasizing about this place, but never actually making a concrete plan to go move there if I supposedly wanted to move there for so long, because I keep thinking about it. And then the question is, okay, well, is this actually an avoidance mechanism? So I've just like fantasized about some grass is always greener, so it takes me away from accepting my reality as it is now, accepting my limits, accepting my choices and the consequences of them. So the no can often also take us away from looking within and from getting the answers from within, or saying no to the divine mirror of life, aka people in your lives as the divine mirror, or the relationship you have to a certain thing reflecting back to you how you're relating with life. Yeah. And so if we say no to the divine mirror, we're also saying no to ourselves. We're saying, no, I don't want to learn. No, I don't want to change. No, I don't want to receive what you have to say because it's too painful. I want the comfort. I want the safety. Stop. And compassion to that. This shit ain't easy. It's painful. It touches the deepest parts of us. It like tickles our core wounds. This whole realm, this whole lesson, this quest of acceptance. So we really don't want to block our growth with that. Again, coming back to a personal example, I noticed that the non-acceptance for me really is manifest in the gray. It manifests as sitting on the fence. For example, if I hypothetically wanted to move to this place, well, there's the option of taking it step by step, right? Making the plan and kind of just methodologically getting there. And the other option is like, Aries, boom, now, go. Trust that the universe will hold me. They're valid options. Maybe there are more, but let's just say there are two. And the non-acceptance for me is like, okay, well, I don't know about the slow step-by-step thing, and I don't really know about the impulsive thing, and actually I'm kind of scared, so let's just think about it. And here I am oscillating in the grey, and nothing happens because it's in between. It's like a state of purgatory. And so I deluded myself for so long in thinking that me thinking about a thing was action. But it was wishful thinking. It was ungrounded. I wasn't implementing that into aligned, tangible actions, yeah? And that's the trap. If we don't actually accept what we really want, or we don't accept what we really don't like about our current state, our current reality. But the grey is this sort of like sitting on the couch, just looking at the mess before you, or looking at the different options before you and just not choosing. Why? Well, again, there's you opening that door with that question. Why? Well, what if it's not the right choice? What if I fuck up and it's not what I expected? What if I run out of money? What if I actually hate it? What if I regret it? Okay, well, why does that matter? Well, I have this belief, opening the door again, I have this belief that if I don't get something right, then I'm inherently not good enough. Okay, so kind of perfectionist, Why is that there? Open that door again. I don't trust that I'm enough as I am. Okay, well, why don't I trust that? Why don't I trust myself? When did I stop trusting myself? Whew, let's open that door again. Well, at some point in my life, well, I haven't actually fully identified when I stopped trusting myself, because I've been asking myself this question. When did I stop trusting myself? And it's not in all facets of life. That's what I'm also trying to get at. It can shine through in particular areas. But this when did I stop trusting myself feels very connected to movement forward of like change, which is maybe a little bigger. And, or at least I've made a mountain out of a molehill, so as to not have to face the fact that behind all of that, behind all the story of, oh, it won't be perfect or it might fail or whatever, behind all of that is just a really core part of me that at some point didn't receive the love and acceptance that they wanted, that I wanted. So that's sort of an example of a line of inquiry that the state of acceptance enables. Opening those doors, peeling the layers of the onion back. And you can go infinitely deep. And acceptance is also like, I'm not going to be perfect at this thing. There are some days when I really don't want to look, and other days I'm going to feel a little bit more like, pumped, ready to look. And can I accept that there are parts of me that I don't like? Can you accept that there are parts of you don't like? Can you accept that there are things that you've done which you don't like? That there are things that people have done that you don't like? So no, right? No, I don't want to look. No, I don't. I'd rather stay safe. No, I don't want to take that risk. No, I don't want to say what I really want to say. Or no, I probably shouldn't because... No, because I have to do this thing. This resistance to life's unfolding is not just a personal issue. It's a collective and cultural thing. We live in a world where no is often celebrated as strength, standing firm in our beliefs and protecting our boundaries and maintaining control. And sure, fuck yeah, say no. If you don't want to do a thing, say no. If your boundaries are being crossed, say no. Absolutely. Absolutely. But what if it's also actually subcommunicating some perpetuation of a resistance to life? If we get super fixated on the no. But what about yes? What about saying yes to doing the hard things, not just saying yes for the easy things? What if saying no all the time, whether it's conscious or unconscious, is actually keeping us from fully experiencing the richness of life? What if this no is a veil that distorts our perception of reality and prevents us from stepping into the fullness of who we can be? Because it's hard. So I want you, if you're able and you feel available, to just bring your focus within yourself. You can focus on the bottom of your feet if you like, or your root area, or your heart. And if you want, you can lightly close your eyes or just look down and reflect for a moment on your life and ask yourself, if you feel able and willing, what part of your existence have you been rejecting because it feels uncomfortable, inconvenient, or beyond your control? I'm going to say that again. What part of your existence have you been rejecting because it feels uncomfortable, inconvenient, or beyond your control? Big question. Does something come to mind? Does something come to heart? Does something come to root? Is there a relationship that you're avoiding? A situation you're resisting? a part of yourself you're not willing to look at, therefore accept, therefore change? And what would happen if you allowed yourself to soften that resistance and allowed life to unfold in its own way by accepting the invitation to look, by accepting the invitation to face this challenge which has come into your life, by accepting the invitation to try to see your reality through a different lens, so it becomes less about what's happening and more about how am I responding to this thing. So it becomes less about, there's a part of me I'm not willing to accept, and more about, okay, well, how am I going to go about navigating this? Am I going to journal about it? Am I going to go look, talk to my therapist about it? Am I going to read a book about it? Am I going to talk to trusted friends, family about it? Am I going to meditate and contemplate this? So the how comes in, not just the what that's happening. In my life, I've been super good at identifying the what, okay? But that puts me in observer. And I feel very comfortable in the observer a lot of the time. It's harder for me to not just be an observer and actually to then step forward, not just look at the door, but step forward and be like, okay, let's walk it. So compassion, kindness, and also, yalla, do it. The whole notion of, no, I won't look at it now, I'll do it later. Sometimes, yeah, you got to do that, okay? You're actually in a state of overwhelm and you got to park that for a moment. But other times, it's really time that you're playing with. And I know for myself, the no can kind of feel like a nice temporary relief, but it sort of postpones the inevitable. Like, part of me knows this is going to be uncomfortable to look at this thing or to deal with this situation or to actually sit down and plan my life or goals or whatever it is. And there comes the resistance because it's uncomfortable. And remember, our minds are wired to reject discomfort. Can you accept that? And in your acceptance of it, can you realize that it's going to come, but you can still follow through and do the thing? Take emotional intimacy as an example. The fear of opening up to others, the fear of being vulnerable, the fear of exposing yourself to the possibility of being hurt, of being judged. And so saying no to being vulnerable, saying yes then to putting a defense mechanism around your heart, you can sense, even just saying that, there's distance between you and life, between you and the richness of now, between you and a state of acceptance and therefore love. But what if the very act of even just saying, whoa, I'm noticing my heart is getting real defensive right now. I really feel scared to say this. And here it is. And in doing that, it's freaking uncomfortable. But you can't change that. So you can accept that it's going to be uncomfortable. You can accept that it's not going to feel good. And you find a whole new realm of experience and depth of being. And you realize that the fear was just a figment of your imagination. It was the gatekeeper at that door. It was standing in front of the door and you didn't even know there was a door. And then you walk a little closer, which is freaking crazy to seemingly walk towards some big scary monster. But there it is. And then you're like, oh, there is a door behind you. And that big scary monster that is fear is like, yes, there is. And then you're like, okay, well, I kind of have a fear of death right now. Death of an old identity. Death of feeling safe. And then you say, hey, can I walk through that door? And that big scary monster's like, yeah, sure, I thought you'd never ask, and steps aside. Cognitive dissonance, hello? Interesting, right? We make everything seem so big and scary and huge when a lot of the time it's just not. So that's why acceptance isn't always easy. That's why it's an invitation to approach the door. You can imagine life as a river. And it's got a current. It's moving. It's doing its thing. It's got a natural flow. And obviously, it's easier to let the natural current of the river take you. Nice. There's medicine for sure to being the salmon that's like jumping up through the downward current. For sure. That's what builds resilience too. Like life's be pushing back and you're like, I know this is the direction I'm going to go. So again, don't make it black and white. But there is this theme of the river of life, the current of life, allowing yourself to be guided by that current. And still, as you're on the river, like you can't just fully bliss out. Like there's probably going to be rocks and sticks, and you got to be conscious and present while the river of life is taking you. You could be like, all right, oh, boulder, oh, big stick. Like, okay, calm. Oh, okay, it's like wild water rapids right now. I better freaking build me a boat real quick. So you see? So anyway, this moves me on to the next part of this video, which is really about the power of also saying yes to life's invitations. Saying yes to life is not easy a lot of the time because we are a composite of multiple parts, and some parts are going to be in conflict with other parts. Can we accept that? Can we not fully attach to it has to be a full body fuck yes in order for me to do a thing, and it be yes, enough yes. 70% yes. And for sure, again, don't be black and white. Sometimes there are full body fuck yeses, okay? But don't attach to that, as this is the only signpost of me being able to say yes. So in essence, acceptance is the capacity to also say yes. For sure, acceptance is also sometimes being like, no, I accept how I feel, and for me, it's a no, right? But as we're speaking about yes, saying yes isn't about agreeing to everything. It isn't about just passively, blindly going with the flow. It's more about being open to experience, being willing to experience life. Being willing to try on the lens that perhaps everything that is happening to me has a seed of potential for me to then carry with me, plant in the fertile soul of my garden, my inner garden, and grow a plant that is a lesson, a piece of wisdom. And from everything I can learn something. From everything, even if it's painful, there's a lesson. And am I willing to not be so ego butthurt about it, but to be able to extract the lesson so it doesn't have to repeat, so you don't get stuck in a loop. So saying yes to life is really releasing a lot of the time the need to control the outcomes, the need to know absolutely every step on the journey, and to allow the present moment to unfold, even if it takes you in unexpected directions. This is a profound act of surrender, not in a passive way, but in a radically engaged with life way. Remember, like, you can be on the river of life and still move out of the way of a boulder. Decide while you're in the river to go, walk over there in the beautiful meadows and say hey to these beautiful herd of wild horses. You can still do that. But you're open to the experience because you're like not resisting the river of life. You're not holding on to the log for dear life and not letting yourself move. Do you see the nuance of what I'm talking about here? The yes that I'm speaking to is presence. Presence as the skill of accepting what is. The skill of withdrawing your projections, of withdrawing your judgments, your criticisms, your comparisons. Withdrawing the judgment on something as this is bad, this is wrong, this is right. And just noticing the subjectivity of it and being like, okay, well, maybe in 10 years this thing wouldn't be right for me, so to speak, but right now it's working and I clearly need this lesson right now. So then you can see that the painful stuff, it's part of a much larger, meaningful story. It's an invitation to dive deeper into the mystery of life, embracing the unknown and allowing it to transform you from the inside out. How comfortable do you feel with that notion? And I want to ask you another question. Can you see the opportunities hidden in plain sight in your most challenging or painful moments? Or is that just really seems far away? For myself, it takes me a lot sometimes to be able to just take a step back and harness the gold and the gift of the observer to see what's happening from a less entangled perspective. Being able to take a step back from the seeming pain and suffering and see, what's my role in this? Why am I creating this for myself? To take full self-responsibility. Why am I the way that I am? And am therefore attracting these things again and again into my life. You freaking opened the dang door. Good job. But you got to answer that question, right? Because I've also gotten stuck in the whole I'll just ask a bunch of questions and not answer them. So it's more like mental masturbation, So yeah, just notice how comfortable you feel with that. How able you are to see the opportunities hidden in the pain and the suffering or the challenge. To see the opportunities, the lessons within this pattern you have of maybe comparing yourself to people. Or feeling like you gotta just be this one thing to be successful. And that there's a reason why you're experiencing this right now. You're experiencing this reflection. This is kind of maybe a dark example, but it just came to mind to sort of contextualize what I'm saying about the capacity to see the opportunities, to try on the different glasses, the lens, right? AKA, what is the filter that you're seeing your reality through? Is it one that is generative or one that is destructive? In the concentration camps, there were a lot of folks, apparently, who made it through because in spite of the hellstorm, they were able to see the lesson, the opportunity, the goodness that was still present in what a lot of us would just deem as fully, completely, objectively bad. There is a skill in that. The capacity to accept that invitation, woof, that's a strong heart. And you can do that because your heart is strong. But your heart is also a muscle, and all muscles need training. also that. So in essence, a lot of the time, the saying yes to life is an opportunity for growth and transformation. Every time you say yes to an experience, no matter how challenging, you invite yourself into a deeper process of self-discovery. But this often requires a leap of faith because there's a willingness that we need to step outside of the known, to step outside of the familiar, the comfortable. But when you allow life to teach you, it reveals to you the magic of the mystery, and again, how nothing new is birthed from the known. Newness, innovative creations are birthed from the unknown. The fertile soil that is dark, right? The seed germinates in the darkness before it punctures out of the soil into the light. So in doing that, we begin to release this certainty and control, and we begin to step outside into the ever-flowing river. I don't know what that was. The ever-flowing river of life, of existence. And saying yes isn't just to external things. It's not just saying yes because someone invited you to something and now you've just got to say yes to everything. That's also not what I'm saying. It's also saying yes to you. By saying yes to your authentic self, that can sometimes manifest as you saying no externally to something. By saying, yes, I am going to love myself enough to look within and not play out these dang patterns anymore, which by extension is me saying no to those things. You see? So this is you saying yes to your humanity. This is saying yes to the fact that you know that you're imperfect and everyone's imperfect and that's okay. And I love myself enough to look and make changes if that's in my highest good. It helps if we withdraw, again, those judgments. It's harder to accept if it's constantly layered with judgment and criticism. That can feed spirals of self-loathing, and that feeds the parts of us that we supposedly want to move from or reassign, right? So I hope you can see that there is a difference between this no resistance to life and this yes willingness to accept life. And how both of those things don't mean that I'm just going to say no to everything or I'm just going to say yes to everything, right? It's not that black and white. So I hope that you could, or at least I hope I explicated sufficiently the nuance there. So moving on, I want to speak about how life is a living, evolving force. And also how by it being a living, evolving force, living means relationship. Everything is relationship. Everything exists in relationship to other things, as Tyson Yunkaporta said in his book, Sand Talk. Love this quote so much. The evolving force of existence is interdependence, interconnectedness. Things don't stand alone. And so to accept life, we are accepting relationship. We're accepting our relationship with ourselves, with this land that we live on, the land of our ancestors, accepting who our ancestors are, the line that we come from, accepting our family, accepting or relating, let's say, with also non-human kin, the non-human world, relating with the land, the trees, the river, the birdsong, relating with the unseen forces like our emotions, relating with our essence, our soul, So true acceptance requires us to see beyond the human-centric view of the world and recognize that all life is interconnected. We're all co-creating this evolutionary process, and every living thing is part of this larger web of life, and we all have our own role, so to speak, to play in the unfolding of the universe. And acceptance is almost like us accepting is accepting. How can I frame that without using the word accepting? Accepting in that sense is embracing or stepping into or opening the door of our position in all of this. Accepting that that other person does this thing super great, but that's not my thing, and I don't just have to copy paste them. When you say yes to life, where you see the interconnectedness of all of existence, you're able to see life as the ecosystem that it is. And because it's interdependent, the ecosystem relies on each of the things in the ecosystem to do their thing well. The ants feed the mycelium, and the mycelium feeds and connects the trees and creates its own kind of communication system. And then the trees grow really big and they create shade, which allows the other shrubs to grow, and then certain animals eat the fruits of those little shrubs, and then they go poo over there, which seeds those shrubs, and it grows, and in the soil there are all the worms, and the worms are great because the birds get to eat them, and so the worm's not trying to be the bird, and the bird's not trying to be the tree, but all of them form the ecosystem. So acceptance is also you being like, I'm not that other person, I'm me. Acceptance is like, whoa, yin and yang. I'm not just fully white, I'm also black. As in yin and yang. I have lightness, I have shadow. Yeah? And so acceptance is liberation in so many ways. And because acceptance in the true form of it, it's not passivity, it's not apathy, it's not blind faith. What's your relationship like with the natural world? When was the last time that you related with the natural world as its own being, as its own sentient consciousness that's also relating with you? When was the last time that you were able to really just be with that? Be with the land, be with the tree, be with the river, be with the bird song. Sit outside and watch the rain come down. I feel for me the natural world, and sure, by extension everything's kind of natural, but the non-human altered world teaches me a lot about acceptance. Because in the natural world, we're seeing the compost. We're seeing the things that are decaying on the forest floor. And so we're exposed to the natural cycles of life, death, and rebirth, creation, maintenance, and destruction. We're exposed to things being as they are. And that's enough. When we reject even the natural world, we're rejecting part of ourselves. Life on Earth is just not simply about human existence. It's a vast, interconnected system of forces, seen and unseen, and we're all a part of it. So acceptance also allows us to accept our place in this system, not as masters necessarily, dominators or whatever it is, but as humble fellow travelers in an ongoing process of creation. Do you feel that? Do you feel that power of acceptance as this invitation to take your place in this world as you? The tree stands tall, not because it necessarily has to, but it just is. The tree is. You are. And you are becoming as the tree is becoming. It keeps growing. There's an evolutionary impulse. And sometimes that evolutionary impulse on a more personal level is asking us to look at those uncomfortable things. And we're like, oh God. Okay, I'll look. Okay. Life is a mysterious thing, to say the least. And the next layer, so to speak, of acceptance is also the capacity to accept the mystery of life. We so want to understand, we so want to control, we so want to know. We want to predict everything. We try to predict the weather. And it changes, It doesn't mean we shouldn't try to predict. Doesn't mean we shouldn't plan. Doesn't mean we shouldn't project ourselves into the future and envision the version of ourselves we're becoming closer to. Right? But there's an acceptance and an allowance, therefore, of that to modulate, should it be in our highest good, right? And if it wasn't in our highest good, then thank you for the lesson. That was a blind spot for me. But then that's still in your highest good, right? Life is just so fundamentally unknowable. Like, you don't even truly know who you are or what you are. Me neither. How could we? How can you truly know yourself 100%? You are a composite of seen and unseen forces. Okay? You are so much more multi-dimensional than you could ever imagine. You are not just this body. And I know you know that. Life is full of paradoxes. As in, you find yourself when you are lost. It's like, excuse me? The rational mind's like, what? But yes, life is full of paradox. Can you accept the paradox of life? What an invitation. Means I can actually let the river carry me to the next sort of thing, right? The more we try to distance ourselves from, the more we try to distance ourselves from the truth, it just gets hard. The truth is paradoxical. That's the thing. The truth is light and shadow. The truth is uncomfortable a lot of the time. And sometimes it's the most relieving, liberating thing ever. Right? It's got two faces, or a gazillion faces, right? It's just not, what I'm trying to say is it's not one-dimensional. It's nuanced just like you. Some days you feel pretty good, other days you don't. Why acceptance is an invitation is because we do get to say yes or no. We do get to be like, thanks so much, I'm not going to take the invitation. Or, yeah, I am. I'm going to open the door. And so it does still reflect back to us our part in this as active co-creators, not as passive things. Yeah. I almost feel like no matter how we really respond, like we're going to be, like life is still going to reflect back to us the thing that we don't want to look at but need to, kind of thing. Or the thing that will shine a light on even a strength that we have which we'd overlooked. Because life as an evolving force is something we're relating with, and in relationship comes the divine mirror. So that's what I'm saying about the human and non-human kin. Like in relationship with anything, that divine mirror is going to be there. And so that's why when we can accept life as this in like animate, vibrant thing beyond a relationship of just with people, but with life itself, then we accept the divine mirror in every moment. Not to make us neurotic and crazy, but to accept the reflection, to accept that feedback mechanism. How do you feel receiving feedback from people, for example? Do you feel pretty comfortable with receiving feedback, even if it touches a sort of spot? Do you feel shut down? Do you feel persecuted if you receive feedback? Do you feel controlled if you receive feedback? Does it stir up your wounding that you're not good enough? Right? And so you see, even in just that, there's the mirror of where you're at. There's the mirror of, oh, this is some wounding I haven't resolved yet. Hypothetically, had you resolved that wounding, that feedback wouldn't activate I'm not good enough. The divine mirror would maybe shine a light on something different. So yeah, how do you go receiving feedback? Does that part of relationship feel like an invitation for you? And can you accept that invitation? How much of your life have you spent trying to figure everything out? And what would it mean for you to let go of the need to figure everything out? To be in like a constant state of certainty, and instead embrace life as a mystery, thereby accepting the invitation to see life as it is, which is fundamentally unknowable. Oh baby, super juicy. Just reading my notes. Yeah, that's a nice question to ask yourself. Right here, right now, I invite you to ask yourself this question, which is, tapping into that mystery. So I want you to ask yourself, if you can, close your eyes if that feels good, to help you center and go within. Ask yourself, what is the most powerful thing I can do in this moment to trust in life's unfolding and surrender my need to know everything? What is the most powerful thing I can do in this moment to trust in life's unfolding and surrender my need to know everything? That door could open, and what it could look like is seeing the not knowing not as a weakness, but as a profound opening for growth. For example, there are a gazillion answers to this question, by the way. If I ask you this question tomorrow, your answer would probably be different, so no perfecting here, but an invitation. So, how can you say yes to life today? What would change in your world, your personal universe that is connected to everything? AKA, what would change in your relationships, your work, your health, your inner world, your future, your path, which is your purpose? What would change if you stopped resisting the current of life and started flowing with it? Being not a passive passenger, but an active one. And still having the capacity to say, no, that's not aligned, or yes, that's still saying yes, right? What would it feel to step into the unknown and trust that it is leading you exactly where you need to go? Because to step into the unknown and trust that it is leading you exactly where you need to go is the exact energy that is actually going to carry you forward in a generative way. And so it's more about the energy, it's more about the how than the what. Yeah. Okay. I will wrap up this video here. Thank you for hanging out in this magical corner of the internet with me. Thank you for giving yourself this time to ask some uncomfortable questions, or to see your reality through a different lens, or at least welcome the possibility of that, to accept the invitation of that. Good job. I'm proud of you. I know it's not easy. So give yourself lots of love and emanate that love to the human and non-human kin in your life. And may you find acceptance of the good, the bad, and the ugly, to accept your role as a proactive passenger in this journey of life. Okay, please give this video a like for me, because we want the algorithm to know that we got good stuff going on here. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Feel free to share this video with folks in your life who you feel would benefit from hearing this. And know that if you are looking for one-to-one support at any point within your own personal journey, within the realm of self-actualization and creative sovereignty and themes of purpose and things like that, or even resolving ancestral patterns that have just been weighing you down, I got various ways that I can work with you and that we can work together. So have a look down below. There's some information. And anyway, until the next time,